I believe some of you have already studied the 5 levels of pleasure or heard the class. You should have at least heard it at least once. I'm going to do it slightly different, and hopefully we'll try and see how it goes, because I want to put it in context, in a context that I've discovered or learned about that I think is a bit more practical, and that's as follows. The soul, okay, so you can put this piece of paper aside for now, and then as we start working through the different levels, we'll get back to that. Okay, this is my hypothesis. Okay. There are at least 5 levels of the soul. We're familiar with 3 basic levels of the soul, and there's ultimately 5. There's actually 10, but relevant levels of the soul, there's 5. The most physical level of the soul we call the nefesh. The next level, which is more spiritual, is called the ruach. Then we have what's called the neshama. Then we have what's called the chaya. And then we have the chaya. Okay. Nefesh is the most basic earthly part that enables us to be alive. And the prohibition, for example, of drinking blood of an animal, the Torah says you should not drink the blood, because the blood is the soul, it's the living part of the animal, right? So this part of the soul is very parallel to the animal life. Okay, so kind of we're very in parallel with this part of the soul, the animal life. God says the animal has this nefesh. Human beings have a nefesh. Okay. Ruach is the more spiritual part of the soul. When God created man, it says, and he blew into him, ruach chayim, a spirit of life. Ruach, that's spirit. It's less physical. Neshama is the higher part, which is more in the intellect. From a Kabbalistic perspective, the nefesh is the blood that pumps through the heart. The ruach is more the neck area where the voice, the vocal. The neshama is in the brain, outside or up and down. It is the clear knowledge of good and evil, and it is that voice that keeps telling us, don't do it.
That was 3. Number 3 was that?
That's code number 3. Yeah, we haven't even gotten to 4, right?
You know the prayer that you sing in the morning.
Yes, Modani.
Yeah.
Right.
I can thank you for my neshama.
Right.
So that's not the shini.
Which parts of them are?
Neshama. I thought that was the soul.
Neshama. So these are all parts of the soul.
Oh, okay.
Okay. They're just so if one were to break down your soul, there are different parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because ultimately we're neither human nor spirit, neither animal nor spirit. We're this combination of physical being with a body, which is very physical, and then we have this great mind that has the capability of conversing with God, which is complete spiritual energy. So in order to go from me, one food, to great spiritual individual, there needs to be a collection. And this is the ultimate fundamental drive. So the neshama is that higher part. The chaya is almost angelic. The animal in in parts of the prophets, in words of the prophets, it talks about they had a vision, and they'll talk about an angel as Ophanei HaKodesh, holy spiritual angel, and Chayot HaKodesh, and the Chaya of the Kodesh. It's Holy Spirit of an angel. And that is also attached to our soul. We also have a part of it. And then there's Yechidah. Okay, so now I just want to dissect this word. The root of the word is Chai. Chai means life, right? But ultimately, if we're talking in a spiritual perspective, it's the ability of giving life, the ability of emulating God. We'll talk about it in a second. The Yechidah, the root word is Echad, Yachid, which means one. The ability of connecting with God. Okay? Okay.
So our soul has a little bit of one of those.
I would say that our soul is broken up. If you were to dissect the soul, it's made up of those 5 parts.
But everybody has little, more or less, not all
Everyone
the same.
is all the same. It's a question of how much we utilize and how much we allow ourselves to connect with them. Right? When you say, by the way, when we talk about the morning blessing of thanking God for giving us our back, Nishmati, our Neshama. So in truth, this part, it remains connected. The way one of our, the Derech Hashem, Rabbi Lutzato, he explains is that parts of the soul is spiritual things, so therefore it can be in 2 places. And then in one place is parts of the soul are able to actually disconnect from the body and connect to more spiritual beings or get its cleaning or whatever is needed. If this does not come back, then person's what we classically call unconscious or in a comatose. That's when the person does not have that, and therefore when you wake up in the morning, we say, "Thank you for giving me back this." And
So a person's soul that is more spiritually connected to Hashem would be would have more of the Yechidah.
Yeah.
And less of the Nefesh.
Well, they'd be focusing more on that. They'd be connecting more with it than that. The Nefesh, for example, is your heart beating.
Yeah.
Everyone's heart beats, and the heart needs oxygen and it needs food to continue beating.
So in the secular world, we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and everybody has a little bit of everything.
Correct.
But the more you get to self-actualization, the more you get to the top.
Right.
Would that be
the less focused we are over there?
Okay, got it.
We'll get there. We'll get there. This is our goal, and we'll see it as we get.
We learned the term Shekhinah, I think it was, as a spark that comes down.
The Shekhinah is the
Yeah.
Spirit of God
Do we
coming down into the world.
possess a little bit of that,
Well,
each of us?
This is all that part of God that the spark of God that He gave to us.
Okay, so that.
That's separate to what you're talking about. When we identify Shekhinah, it's something that's completely independent of us, meaning God. And this, each one of us, each individual, when we were born, I'm in our mother's stomach. My son asked me about the birds and the bees and what's
and the stalk?
yeah, because the Spivaks had a baby.
Right.
So Shua is my to daddy's had baby.
But so do we have a little Shekhinah in us though?
Our soul is a part of God. So before we're
Okay.
born,
Right.
God placed within us a piece of
Little
God,
spark,
a
okay.
spark.
Okay.
And that is broken down into these.
So this is
Right.
spark.
Okay. So there's in one of the Simpson episodes, Homer Simpson, he is having his great dream, and he's walking with God, right? He's walking with God. He's asking God. He's like, God, what's the purpose of life? God says, oh, I can't tell you that. Anyone seen this?
No,
No?
I don't watch them.
What's the purpose of? I haven't watched either. Okay, it's a rough cop joke. So, what's the purpose of life? And God said, "Oh, I can't tell you." He said, come on, God, you can tell me. Come on, I need to know. And God says, like, you'll have to wait. So I can't tell you until you die. Said, I can't wait so long. He said, like, you can't wait 6 months. And he goes, no, I can't wait so long. God, what's the purpose of life? He says, okay, I'll tell you. The purpose of life is, and it goes to the credits. Right? So, why they go to the credits? When they tell us what's the purpose of life?
Because everybody's purpose is different.
Everyone's purpose is different. What do you think? Why wouldn't they tell us? In The Simpsons, at least. The creators, the great creators.
I have no idea.
They have no idea? Yeah.
And everybody has different opinions about it.
They don't want to lose 80% of the
I
viewers,
was gonna
right?
say, yeah.
Exactly, right? That would be terrible. Right? Where are they from? What's that city called? Springfield. There we go. The youngest now, but we can touch on them. Why is it Springfield? Because every state in the United States has a Springfield in it. So
So you can identify.
I can identify.
I didn't
What do you
know
get?
that every
Oh, what's
state
the
had
purpose
a
of life?
I don't either.
Okay, so if we were to ask you, Yeah.
Isn't it, or Jews have a certain purpose, don't we?
okay, what's the purpose of life?
I thought it was to make the world a better place.
Better place? Have we been through this last week?
To be a light unto
Right. The nation.
the nations. Yeah.
Better place, light unto the nations. What else?
Well, Rabbi Spivak taught it was the pleasure of knowing God.
Wow. Purpose of life is the pleasure of knowing God. If you were an individual, okay, and that had no foreknowledge of Judaism, okay, and you walked out onto this planet and you wanted to analyze what is the purpose of life, okay? And let's say you believe that there was a creator and you believe that there's a purpose, that the creator created a purpose, okay? Physical pleasure should play a part in that purpose of life. And I'll prove it to you. Do animals care? How many people have a pet? Okay.
Some children. Small children.
How many flavors of dog food does your dog or cat food able to differentiate?
They don't. They'll eat anything.
Yeah.
They'll
The
eat
dogs are
anything.
different. Yeah.
Exactly.
I thought you were going to say
yes.
how many flavors do they get?
Right.
One.
Our dogs
Like, So in Israel, it was like we had the farm and there's the cows, and it's possible that your animals are a bit spoiled and therefore they have to be more sensitive to different tastes. But ultimately, it was the cows, and you gave them hay, or you gave them your leftover food, or you gave them the leftover bread, or you gave them the leftover anything, or the grass, and whatever it was, they ate it, they chewed it, went through them, right? Made no difference, right? What, right? We haven't yet heard of a farm. I'm sure that would be a great idea, right? Oregon, we actually have menu out available for the cows. What would you like to have for lunch? Would you like compost grass, or would you like leftover bread, or would you like old vegetables? Right? No cow cares about the food. Yet, if you go out into a restaurant, the more flavors and the more options that you get, that they're able to offer you, that will make it a better restaurant. Right? Why is it that human beings, the way that God created this world is, God could have created us human beings as just plain, we eat like animals, meaning that we don't eat because we enjoy, we eat to satiate our hunger. Big difference. Instead of enabling us to eat to satiate our hunger, which animals do, we could have just done that, right? You're hungry, here's your food. And it didn't have to be colorful either. It could all be, what color is your dog food? Light red,
food color.
right?
Yeah.
It could all be that color.
Mhm.
And instead, how many colors do we have in fruit? Peppers. Did you know that a green pepper, an orange pepper, a yellow pepper, and a red pepper are just different stages of their growth?
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're able to charge you.
More. Yes.
I tell you. No. I will buy that green pepper. Right?
But hang on. Hang on. I want to talk about peppers.
No.
I want to talk about wealth. Is a person living a subsistence life. I was spent part of time in the Amazon jungle with subsistence farmers. The person living a subsistence way of life, getting with basic foodstuffs, wheat and rice, is just living to survive. But as people start making more money in the first world, they then start eating for pleasure as well. They want better taste, they want better meat, they want the different kinds of peppers. So I think that as society has developed wealth, I think the needs have also changed as we also have to eat to survive.
I hear 100%, but I'm looking at this world from a perspective of a newcomer walking out onto this world, and I see there are two options that God could have created the world. Okay, He could have created it in black and white, grayscale, right? He could have created all fruit, grayscale. Yet every fruit is so complex in its development. It's unbelievable, right? The one Rabbi Victor Malay, my father he was one of those first rabbis in America who just recorded every single class that he gave, and he was this old European rabbi. And I remember like growing up, probably 15 years, with all his tapes in my father's car. And like, we're now about to begin, this is his voice, we're now about to begin our lesson number 974. Today we will talk about whatever it is. And he was just like lectures, phenomenal individual. But he used to say, he said, think about it. The way God created a ripe apple is different to an unripe apple. An unripe apple is not shiny and it's not bright, and it kind of melts in, it's covered or into the leaves of the tree, and when it's ripe, it kind of stands out, right? And then notice the seeds are a different color. The seeds are a color that are not appetizing, right? And for example, you talk about the orange, just like going to analyze an orange. So brilliant in the design, the little packets, tiny packets that you get so much juice, and it's covered with the skin. It's such a brilliant design. Why did he do that? If he just could have,
All the fish. That's what just
Yeah.
scares me.
Shrimp. I'm joking.
And then Whole Foods actually shines the apples more.
They shine the apples.
Yeah.
You should just know.
They
Apples
polish
have
them.
their own shine.
But they
You
polish
go
them.
out to the you go out to the farm, you buy the apples. One time I was driving, I don't know where, and the guy said, we just didn't have time to shine it. And he took out a towel and just rubbed them, and they kind of have such a beautiful shine, right? God could have created a grayscale world, and yet he created a beautiful world. And guess what? It's not the animals that are
That's why
enjoying the world.
nectarines came from peaches.
That's right.
Yeah. There's peaches. Look at peaches. They're furry. They're awful texture outside. And nectarines are delicious.
Are you saying a peach is not delicious?
Okay, guys, we need to move because we're never going to get through. Okay, so where am I getting? Oh, okay, so God clearly created this world. Clearly, procreation is the greatest pleasure of mankind. That is how one creates another child. God could have created it in a different way. Right? Could have done something like that. Animals don't enjoy sex like human beings do. They don't.
Really?
No, absolutely not. I'm sorry. How do you know? There's no, like the two dogs are not like going to, hey, should we go on tonight, a date tonight? No, they're not.
Happy to me.
They are not. They may be, no. There's just a plain old drive. Right? God created a world whereby there's so much pleasure out there, and ultimately, he wants us to enjoy it. So much so, I say to say that if a person had opportunities to enjoy the world and ignore them, did not, God will ask him, I created a beautiful world for you. Why did you not enjoy it? Pleasure is core. Okay. So we have the 5 levels of pleasure. We're going to go through all 5. We have to know a couple of things just as we start. We've got to become a connoisseur. C-O, someone help me.
M-O-I.
Oh, there we go.
No, there's 2 M's.
The 2 N's.
O-I.
O-I.
S-E-R.
S-E-R, that's it?
Really?
I
Okay.
think so.
No,
He's a teacher.
Oh,
Well,
That's it. No one else. That's it.
don't put me
Okay,
on the
we're taking
spot
it.
like that. I think
Okay.
that's the way it's spelled.
Okay. You got to become a connoisseur.
Oh, it might be a U at the end
You
behind
are.
the S.
You are. Yeah,
Yes, you're right.
it's fine.
I don't know what a
You
connoisseur
got to become.
Connoisseur.
U-U-R, is that not? U-E-R.
E-U-R.
I think it's
U-R.
U-R.
U-R. Okay.
I think so.
You got to become a connoisseur, meaning what?
do it.
Oh, you looked at.
For those of you who are not able to focus on this class until the word is spelled correctly,
I think
there you
it's just
go.
one.
Okay, let's let it go, let it go, let it go.
Yeah.
Like when they say a coffee connoisseur, it's you want to
You sampled everything. Or-
and you want to
enjoy- you
If
enjoy
a
it.
set
You're an
in a
expert.
restaurant, I'm really trying not to categorize, but a very large person will come down and sit next to you and like, I'll have this, and then like move through 5 plates. It's like
That sounds
Right.
gluttonous. It doesn't sound.
gluttonous.
Yeah.
Right? Yep.
like home
Right. Does that person enjoy it?
No, they don't enjoy
Not enjoying it. Why not?
They're just eating.
They're just eating to
Yeah.
fill, not eating to enjoy.
Yeah.
How do you eat to enjoy? You got to become a connoisseur. Right? Wine tasting. We love wine. And then you can become a connoisseur of loving wine. You have to have that clean glass. And then you have to stick your nose inside the rim of the glass, or else you're not getting true aroma. And then you have to switch it to one side and then to the other. And then allow the aroma to sit. And then you put it in your tongue, parts of your tongue, swish it around, back and forth, spit it out, suck in with your tongue closed, and wait for that taste to hit the back of your throat.
Yeah.
You're all familiar with that, right?
No, but
No,
listen,
no.
I'm on the wine tasting committee, and I'm gonna do that at the next meeting, so I hope that's the right thing to do.
Listen, he's trying to connect the
You
dots.
ask them, where do you spit out? then you're a real connoisseur. That's it. It's not, you're not meant to be drinking the alcohol. I'll tell you what, my wife's got a second cousin who married a guy that teaches in a university in Toronto, and he teaches in whatever it's called. Become a sommelier. That's right. That's what he teaches. So we sat with him for about half an hour. He was teaching us how to just differentiate. Okay, you've got to become a connoisseur, otherwise you're not really enjoying. God wants you to have pleasure, but you're not really enjoying it if you're not becoming a connoisseur. So therefore, as soon as a person becomes an addict to coffee, you got to quit the coffee because you want to enjoy it. Or at least you got to cut down, drink it slower, not for the hit, but more for the appreciation. Or at least do that sometimes. Got to become a connoisseur. Number 2, how many people have patience to do that with wine?
Well, it comes out of the box pretty fast.
Another one. Right. How many do we really have the patience to sit? Next time you have a fruit in front of you, look at it, analyze it, feel it, smell it, and then take a bite. Well, we will say bracha before. Thank you. Right. Thank you. And then take a bite, and then chew it before you swallow. Right? It takes a lot of work. We don't want to take so much work, but there are people who are wine connoisseurs who will put in the effort. Why? Why they're willing to put in the effort? Because they are focused on the pleasure. If I'm eating a food just because I'm hungry, I'm not going to appreciate it so much. If I focus on the pleasure, then I'll be able to put in more effort. And then number 3, one needs to be careful of the counterfeit. I wrote it so small. Counterfeit.
Like fake?
Is that right?
Yes.
Counterfeit. You've got to be careful to counterfeit. Meaning, okay, what's a counterfeit pleasure? Here we go. So, my Rebbe once taught us, he said, like, you got the real potato, okay, and here's the one made by the Jelly Belly factory. Except they're so good, they spend all their money eating something that looks, smells, tastes, and feels exactly like a potato. Except it's made out of jelly beans or whatever they're made of, right? Scientifically generated. Okay? How can you tell the difference between the two? Looks, smells, feels, and tastes exactly the same. How do you tell the difference?
How would the texture be the same?
They're just that good.
Or you eat enough real ones, then you'll be able to identify the fake.
They're really good. They're good. They're really good at jelly manufacturing.
Look at the ingredients.
How would you tell?
You
You
get a
can't.
sugar high?
Unless you're a connoisseur.
Exactly.
You get a sugar high from a potato.
This will give you nourishment. This will not.
You don't know till later.
The counterfeit is one needs to ensure that what I'm taking
It's the real.
is giving me nourishment. Okay? Opium will give me phenomenal amounts of enjoyment and pleasure. But ultimately, the nourishment of a long life is not. God created us as human beings, wants us to live a long life and take pleasure from this world and take it on with us. It needs to give us nourishment. That's called the counterfeit. Okay, so what's level 1? Level 1 is everything physical. everything in the physical world. So include food, and sight,
Sight?
beautiful views, beautiful sky, sun, and water. We are so behind then. I'm just like looking at the time. It has been suggested that everything we do, every single thing we do for pleasure. At least we think we do for pleasure. Right? Now, hopefully, what we're going to do is, this is going to be the highest level, and we're going to try and focus more of our energy here and less energy up here. But initially, when we're children, we're going to be taught this is really important, focus here, or we're going to, it's going to take time, it takes time to develop this, right? Appreciation, okay? So, for example, it's really important for us to develop, thanks, Joe, to not get caught up with an obsession of food if there's something higher that we need to work towards. But at the same time, we need to appreciate the physical world. Sex falls under this. Meant to be enjoyed. It's a mitzvah, even if a person is beyond the ability of having children, couples are meant to have sex. Physical pleasure. Number two. What's number two going to be? There is nothing in this number one that you can use to buy number two. Say again?
I said, no, don't ask me.
Right? How much is a person willing to sell one of the kids for? How much would you be willing to sell one of your daughters for?
Oh, nothing. I mean, they're not for sale.
Not for sale? 15 million? Jennifer's thinking about it. Speak to Rabbi Spivak, right? Right? Nothing. There is no price in the physical world that can buy love. Right? Love is just that. It's a different level. Okay? So, imagine I really had a friend outside of the parking lot, and his name is Mr. Gates. He's had enough of his kids, and he actually is looking for a new child, and he wants to know that he's offering $1 billion to any of you who are willing to sell your kids, one of your kids, only one. Right? But really willing to give you $1 billion. Like, anyone willing to? Okay. How can we get so frustrated with that, kids? If we're willing to give up. You done?
I said because they're frustrating.
They're
I don't know.
frustrating,
Because
I
they're
know.
frustrating.
But we love them so much.
Yes, we do.
We're not willing to sell them. But if we're not willing to sell them, how come we're willing to lose our tempers with them? If I offered you $1,000 every time you lost, you're cool. would you keep your cool? Oh yeah, I would at least. $1,000. Have my kids. I'll suffer. Right? How come? So what's the deal? What happens? There's no price that you can give me for my children. However, there is a problem going on with my relationship. I love them so much, and yet I'm frustrated. Okay? In order to become a connoisseur with love, we need to learn how to love. How do you learn how to love? Well,
YouTube.
Everything's
on YouTube.
Everything's on YouTube.
I think it's for a woman, it's kind of something that God puts in you when you have it. For a man,
We're
loving
hopeless.
their own child is a little bit different than the way the mother loves. You just kind of have it, right?
Don't men have it too?
Well, I think it's different.
I'm asking permission right now to, if we can go 10 minutes late. Is that okay? Otherwise, I'm going to fly. Otherwise, I need to fly.
10
Okay,
minutes.
10 minutes.
10 minutes late. Okay? 10 minutes over time. Okay. So, where our sages tell us how do you develop love is you focus on someone else's attributes. Focus on their attributes.
Mhm.
When I focus on my child's attributes, especially when they're right, when the kids are sleeping and you open up the door and you look inside and they just and like made no difference how frustrated you got at them. Because there's no negative expression being expressed right then and there. It's just pure me. Right? So what we want to do is we want to learn how to focus on others' attributes.
We had a class on this and about, anyway, to act, if you act loving, then,
That is a good point. That develops.
yeah.
Act in a loving way. So just say, get into a habit, do acts of love, and you will develop the love.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, here what we want to focus on is focus on a person's attributes. I have to tell you, personal thing, and I know it's like online. I'm going through very personal. Okay. I'm working through some personal, emotional stuff about myself, my relationship between myself and my parents. Okay, and there are a number of very, a number of episodes in my life that are just sitting there, right? And they just sit there, and I'm trying to work through it, right? And so the person I'm working through it with, he was, take yourself outside of your own self and put yourself in their shoes. And how have you wronged them with regards to this episode? Okay. And what I'm developing is I'm starting to see my parents from the way they would like to be seen. And I'm also putting them in context. And when I'm putting the action or the episode in context, I'm starting to focus on, hey, there were so many great things that they did for me along the way that this episode is slowly shrinking and falling to the wayside. Right? It's this idea of focusing on someone's attributes. When I focus on someone's attributes, then I'm able to develop a love towards that person. It takes effort, but if I focus on the pleasure, I'm able to achieve it. What's the counterfeit of love?
Lust.
Lust. Okay. Lust. Ooh, it's backwards. Oh, I'm so bad. What happened? There we go. There we go. No,
That's an angel.
angel, right? He's shooting this
There.
arrow. What's it called?
Cupid.
Cupid, there we go. Cupid. What's the counterfeit of love? Counterfeit of love is this idea, this notion of free love, of we fell in love. And, right? My wife. Okay, move on. No, she asked me, like, every so often I say, I just fell in love with her because she was so beautiful. And it drives her crazy. It really frustrates her because that's not why I fell in love with her, and that's not why I love her. I love her because of all the beautiful attributes, not because of how good she looks. And the Western society have created this idea that if you look good and you're attractive, so then you like the person and then you're in love. It's such a big, important fundamental to teach kids, and the most important way to teach them is through individual example. When they see me working out an issue with my wife and then coming to a loving place, that is me exempling to my daughter how to build love. When I focus on my wife's attributes, I'm able to show my daughter through example how I feel. So this we call, the counterfeit is called infatuation. So now put over here these boxes. I wanted you to put inside them the counterfeit of what they are. So, maybe you'll kind of break this box up. So, so over here we'll go counterfeit. And over here will be, what do you say, the counterfeit of the physical pleasure, counterfeit, is comfort versus pleasure. Okay, number 3. What can love not buy? Can love not buy? What is greater than love? What, number 3? What is greater than love? And that is meaning. Meaning. Goodness. For example, if a terrorist told me, God forbid, I was on a plane, I was told, there's no more terror stories on plane anymore, right? They're all in 7-Elevens, right? Held up in a 7-Eleven, and terrorist tells me, either you kill all these 7 people that are lying down on the floor, or I kill you. How many of us will kill those people? None of us, hopefully, right? Why? We'd rather die, right? Meaning, we have physical pleasure, we have life and connection to another life, and then there's something that's even greater than that, and that's this idea of meaning. It's too wrong to do that. I would never be able to live with myself if I did such a thing. I lose part of me that is not worthwhile to continue to live. Meaning. There are things that we can do, okay, that are meaningful, and it becomes a challenge. Why don't we all invest in meaningfulness? I'll give you an example. Tonight, my kids wanted me to lie down with them and lay down with them to a certain degree, and then I came to such a class, right? It's great to spend time with my kids, and then I also need to do something that's meaningful, right? Integrating both of them, right? I ate supper, I spend time with my kids, and I'm doing something meaningful. Same by you guys, doing something meaningful, right?
Our kids were happy to get rid of us.
They're happy. That's right. Okay. So you guys don't get so much reward for things. Okay. I'll give you a quick
Meaning
example.
mean purpose? Does meaning mean purpose?
Meaningful. Let's do this one. Okay, so you're sitting in the park, you went for a walk with your husband, and you're sitting in the park, and you see a guy run by, and he drops a big manila envelope. How do you say it? Envelope. Envelope. And you notice the envelope, and you say, "Hey, you dropped an envelope." And the guy goes, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much." And he opens up and he shows you inside there are $30,000 in cash that he said, "This was our life savings that I'm taking to put down on a house." And you have been, I would never be able to survive otherwise, right? How do you feel at the end of the day?
Great.
Great. Okay. Same situation, you're sitting with your loved one in the park and a guy runs by, you didn't notice it, but the manila envelope fell out and the person disappeared, and you pick up the envelope and you look around and you don't see the guy. Open it up. $30,000. I have to worry so much about a kid's scholarships for university. Can you imagine? No, can't keep it, right? We'll try and find the person, looking around, the person's not around. So you start saying, okay, we'll wait here 20 minutes, and then we'll think about what we're going to do. Right? Clearly the person must have moved on to the next city, downtown Portland, right? You wait 15 minutes, and then you start thinking, you start thinking the potential things that you can do with money, with a lot of money. Your brain starts working. 15 minutes go by, he's not here. You wait another 15 minutes. 15 minutes go by, not here. Eventually you get anxious. Okay, let's go. Start walking, and like you start daydreaming about one of the things you can do with the money. And then in the distance, you see someone running back, looking over there. You walk up to the person and say, "What do you want?" "I lost a manila envelope. Does this look like it? Does this look like it?" He says, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much." You walk home, how do you feel? Not so great. I lost the ability of 30 grand. Right?
You already started rationalizing.
Exactly. But which story do you remember for the rest of your life? When you look back at it, which story you want to tell your kids about, your grandchildren, the amount of effort you put in order to do that great deed, right? So how do we become connoisseurs in meaning? One needs to start and evaluate actions that I did past tense and see how many of them are meaningful, and then focus on the pleasure I now get from that. And the counterfeit, just because we're running out of time, the counterfeit is success, the American dream. People can be great husbands, they can be hard workers, they can be honest people, they can be loyal friends, but if they've not made it up to the Joneses, if they're not able to go and buy at Macy's, if they're not able to live up to the American dream, I don't know if that's it. I wrote down over here, do you know why, in my opinion, it seems to me that there's a lot of people in Hollywood that commit suicide at a very young age, right? Do you know why? Because they move through this chain so fast, and they hit the counterfeits of all of them so fast that they have lost any usage of life anymore, and they're finished. Physical pleasure. Guy told me, he used to be in one of these bands that just made it. He said they used to go on one limo ride from one place and go through $10,000 worth of cocaine on one limo ride, right? Physical pleasure, blew through it. Love, well, they don't know what love is. They're very popular. They're very love. Meaning, they're living the counterfeit of meaning, success, and yet there's no pleasure coming through it. They're not able to take the time to focus on the pleasure. Okay, next, number 4 has to be one step higher, and that is being creative. Right. Creative. Creative to emulate the creator. You know how we are all creators? We're creators in that we all have children. Right? But you know how we're creator in that power? Educating our children and bringing up wonderful kids. That is great creation. So on the one hand, we do meaningful things by giving our time to our kids. We do loving things to our kids, give them lots of physical things. But creativeness, guiding a child towards independence, that is phenomenal creativity, which we need to focus on. That becomes very hard. It's hard to shut down the internet or get our kids throw tantrums or whatever it is at us, right? When we're trying to mold a healthy individual and they're doing something that's unhealthy, we have to suffer the consequences. And we feel the pleasure going on over there.
It's an example outside of kids of that type of attribute.
Creativity. Doing things that other people are not in a creative way. I think there are lots of, well, I think becoming creative in doing a meaningful action. If I can say that.
Can I give you an example?
Yeah.
Our refrigerator's been broken forever. So how to feed your family and have meals and do Shabbat dinner without a refrigerator. Is that creative?
That's very creative. Very creative. Mark, you do it upstairs.
What is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have Sears. What are you talking about?
What?
Did he?
Yeah, I asked you if you had Sears.
We
They're
do.
They're not great?
Don't recommend it.
Okay. Okay,
It's another
what's the
place.
counterfeit of creativity? Being creative. Control. Control. Stalin. Hitler. They thought they were great creators. They thought they were great creators. They were controllers. And that is such a difficult thing to do when we have kids, specifically when we have kids. Or when we're giving charity, or we're coming up with a creative way of doing something kind to another individual, and they don't like it that way. And we feel like saying, I am being of my own good self, doing this creative, wonderful kindness and giving to you, doing a meaningful thing to you. How dare you, right? That is me wanting to manipulate, to control. God does not manipulate or control us. He gives us healthy guidelines and healthy boundaries, healthy rights. And it's a thin line with regards to kids, I guess, versus giving healthy boundaries and being controlled. Very thin line. I mean, we need to enable our kids to be independent at the same time by keeping them healthy boundaries, by standing up with healthy boundaries.
So as an example of that, would that even be like when you do something for your children and you would like them to show gratitude or recognize that you've done something? Is that like if I were to look at them and like, oh, thank you,
Right.
that's
That
being
is
controlling?
creativity, right?
Is that being controlling? That I'm
I don't
saying,
Asking for thank you.
yeah, it's like asking, like recognizing and making them recognize
We-
that in this situation that they should be grateful that,
Yeah, I think
okay.
but you should speak to my wife about it. I'm not, it's very
Teenagers,
educated.
teenagers don't count.
Because I find myself doing that a lot where I'll
Okay.
do something and then
One-
it's like,
one-
and thank you.
Yeah, all the time. I force it out of it. Yeah, then we can move on. Creativity. How does one become a connoisseur with being creative? You need to think. You need to use the brain. We don't like to use the brain. We'd rather just like whatever's being done and we just carry on. We just prefer it rather than let the brain create. Thomas Jefferson. Mankind will rather go put in a phenomenal amount of effort rather than think.
Right.
Okay, now the last point, and that's the end point, that is to connect to God. Connect to God. Now, the reason why I've stuck it in the middle is as follows, because every part of these other four, we're able to integrate connecting to God into each of them, right? How do I connect to God? The greatest fundamental of Judaism is gratitude. When I'm about to partake of the physical world, God wants me to enjoy the physical world. So on the first level of pleasure, I can just enjoy that banana and enjoy the smell and the taste and the nutrition that it's giving me. I can do all of that, right? And then I can do something magical, really magical, and gets emotional. Really weird. Do this in private. Okay? Yeah, feel like I think you're really crazy. But you take a fruit and you smell it and you enjoy it, and then you speak to God and say, and then you slowly enjoy it, and you're connecting to God. And get emotional talking about it. Really, people think you're really crazy. That is great, tremendous level. We're not. There's a famous story of an individual. He said he sat at a great Hasidic Rebbe and he wanted to analyze. He was watching from a very critical eye, and he saw the Rebbe. He took a fruit and he made a blessing and he ate the fruit. And he said, the Rebbe takes a fruit, he makes a blessing and eats it. I take a fruit and make a blessing and eat it, and we're just the same, right? And the Rebbe noticed this critical perspective, and the Rebbe said, there's a difference between you and I. You make a blessing in order to eat the fruit. I eat the fruit in order to make a blessing. We have an opportunity of using the physical world and enjoying it, and then we have an opportunity of connecting to God every time we enjoy the physical. With love, same thing. We can connect to our child or to whoever it is out of love by focusing on their attributes, focusing on the pleasure, and getting tremendous pleasure out of it. And then, and this is such a powerful message or lesson that I recently learned. Every individual has a spark of God. That's what we spoke about. Every individual has a spark of God. When I am able to focus on another individual's attributes, I will learn from them. Right? I'm not just loving for the sake of loving, so that I get pleasure out of loving. I'm loving for the sake of loving because I see a spark of God. I'm connecting to God through love. When I do meaningful action, I'm connecting to the meaningful action, the pleasure in the meaningful action, because I appreciate that my sensitivity towards morality, towards a higher way of life, is a way of walking in the path of God. Copying God. Creativity, same thing. And then ultimately, to connect to God. I want to finish up just right over here. Yechidah, we spoke about the highest level of the soul, came from which word? Echad, which means? One. Unity. The highest level is to become one with God in the physical world. God put us out here to connect to Him through this entire thing. Chaya comes from the word chai, but we also said, what kind of chai? Godliness type of chai. God is alive, but God's unique. How is God unique? He is the creator. That's this level. He created. And Neshama is your soul. That's loosely translated as your soul. Our soul is the thing that differentiates between good and bad. That is when we do something meaningful. It's the Neshama being expressed. The Ruach is the spirit. The breath, it's our words. We were able to express love. I'll go through it another time, but the idea of kissing is a mouth action where one's breath exists, and that's the deepest connection between two individuals. Is to connect to that ruach, that's good. And then the nefesh is the most physical. Every part of our physical world, of this world, has a parallel to our spiritual world and to our soul, to the different parts of our soul. And now we can live a more meaningful life. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I think that was
What was the counter?